Wow, man, I'm extremely impressed with the fight that I just watched from Kosei Tanaka, but just putting on a devastating performance in TKOing Moises Fuentes in only 5 rounds. Now, mind you, this is a fight where I actually favored Fuentes to win the fight. I thought that Fuentes was just more experienced. I thought that he was the heavier-handed puncher. I thought that he'd be able to catch Tanaka in the midst of an exchange. He's a little bit taller, has a little bit longer reach. But what Tanaka did just beautifully was utilize just his overall boxing ability, and he really just looks like a much different fighter, a much better fighter than he had been at 105 pounds. He had looked really good too in his last fight, which was at Flyweight. It was basically like a kind of come in at whatever you want to weigh in fight. Tanaka, I think, weighed in at like 110 pounds and change. So he was definitely cutting a good bit to make 105, and you can even see that just in his difference in his muscle tone in the fights when he was fighting at 105 compared to his flyweight fight in his last fight and this fight here against Fuentes, and just his overall liveliness. He just looked a lot quicker, a lot sharper. He didn't look as slow to warm up as he had, for instance, in the Vic Saladar fight. And what he did was just put on a brutal and devastating display over the best opponent, really, that Donny Nietes had defeated. Donny Nietes, it took him 9 rounds to get rid of Moises Fuentes in a rematch, mind you, because their first fight was actually a draw, majority of the draw in the Philippines, in Nietes' home turf. They had a rematch, ran it back, and Nietes was able to win a bit more conclusively. Fuentes was still very competitive in the second fight, but Nietes was able to kind of outlast him, sharpshoot him, and eventually take him out in the ninth round. But here against Tanaka, man, Fuentes could barely land a glove on him. Tanaka was just too quick. Too quick. His feet were too quick. His hands were too quick. Early on, he was sticking the jab really, really well, sticking and moving extremely well. He looked really damn impressive. Like I'm actually struggling to really place him in the division right now, just like with such an explosive performance. I mean, he just took out ostensibly one of the top three, top five fighters at 108 pounds. Really one of the top fighters at the lowest weight classes over the last few years. I mean, this is a guy, Moises Fuentes, like I said before, who ended Ivan Calderon's career. The legendary Ivan Calderon, one of the greatest 105 pounders of all time. One of the best 108 pounders as well. The guy that was trying to like equal or surpass Ricardo Lopez for a little while there. Wasn't quite able to do it. Fuentes ended him. Fuentes defeated the likes of Wal Garcia, Oswaldo Novoa, Francisco Rodriguez, some really, really solid names. But Tanaka went in there and pretty much treated Moises Fuentes like a scrub, man. I've never seen anybody do to Fuentes what he did to him. The only other fight really where, aside from the knockout that Fuentes had suffered before, where, Fuentes had lost really was a decision years ago against Juan Chiritos Hernandez, who's actually going to be fighting for a flyweight title coming up. But other than that, I mean, nobody had really had a conclusive, just finite victory over Fuentes like what Tanaka just did. He just wiped them out. Like this is, this is a real big surprise to me. I don't necessarily like want to put this like in the upset of the year territory necessarily, because I did say that Tanaka had a very good puncher's chance, especially in my preview video, because he's a heavy-handed guy. He can catch somebody, and he hurt Fuentes very early with body shots, especially the second round. He managed to catch Fuentes with a number of left hooks right on the liver, just that patented nasty Barrera Chavez-esque left hook right to the liver, and he was hurting Fuentes really badly. Fuentes just was a little bit too slow on his feet, a little bit too slow with his hands, and he was unwilling to really sell out and try and trade punches with Tanaka in order to try and get something going. Tanaka was just too quick for him, and like his punches just had too much snap on him. He really had Fuentes hesitant to even throw, hesitant to struggle to find out exactly where he wanted to place his punches. If he wanted to go to the body, if he wanted to go to the chin. He landed a couple of thudding shots here and there, but overall, Tanaka just completely dominated him. It was a fantastic performance. Tanaka basically won every round all the way up until the fifth. Fuentes' good moments were very few and far between. He landed a couple good shots here and there, but this was like, this was just a dominant performance. I'm struggling to really like think of like this is like Terrence Crawford versus versus Victor Postol level shit. Like that was expected to be a pretty even fight. I thought this was gonna be a fairly even fight on a number of terms. Um, but although favoring Fuentes, and Tanaka just made it look easy. He made it look like like my personal prediction, my personal thoughts on the fight wasn't shit. Like Fuentes wasn't shit. Like he was just some scrub that they picked out of the audience to fight, and he just obliterated him, obliterated a former champion. Like you don't normally see very often with two guys that are relatively primed. And Tanaka, like I said before, he's only 21 years old. He's only 8 fights in. He's already a 2-weight world champion. He's a guy that's saying that he wants to become a 5-weight world champion before it's all said and done. So he's a very ambitious young fighter. He's 5'4.5" right now. So he may have a little bit of room to grow. I think at 108 pounds, he looks way sharper, way quicker than he did at 105 pounds, which says to me that I think that cutting that extra weight might have really been harming him. Especially because the age he is right now, he's right in those early 20 years where it's like any of the stunting of your growth that you may have done in your teen years, continuously trying to make weight for a lot of these fights, like amateur fights and such. Like now it's like your body's basically saying like, look, we need to have all the muscle mass that we're supposed to have, like for survival's sake, just like getting into, like a genetic, like homeostatic type thing where where your body's saying like, look, we need to have this such and such amount of muscle mass, such and such amount of fat mass, and we'll be good. Otherwise I'm gonna have to, give you like the flu or something. Or we're gonna have to shut down our immune system for a little while, and you're gonna be sick, and you're not gonna be able to train as well, and all that stuff that gets in the way of a prize fighting career. So, I mean, Tanaka, I think, looked fantastic at 108 pounds. Should he choose to continue to campaign at 108 pounds? I got to put him 50-50, if not favor him over damn near everybody at the weight class. I think I would still slightly lean towards Pedro Guevara and maybe Ryoichi Taguchi, to favoring them slightly to defeat Kosei Tanaka. But against Ganigan Lopez, against the other top fighters of the weight class, I'm struggling to think of a name just off the top that I would, outside of the world champions, really, that I would favor to beat Tanaka. He looked really, really damn good, man. I think Tanaka would beat Yagashi, who fought yesterday. I still need to review that video. I do have it, but I still need to review it. Yagashi has probably a pretty tough upcoming fight with Milan Melindo. But I mean, otherwise, I think, Heki Butler did recently move up to 108 pounds. He was really good at 105 pounds, and similar to Tanaka, I think that he was really taking something out of himself in order to make 105 pounds. He didn't look as lively in his fight with Byron Rojas, which was the big upset. And I think probably the upset of the year. 25-1 underdog came in and upset the apple cart, taking Butler out before Butler could become a bigger star, like in the English-speaking world, especially. He's a fighter, English speaker from South Africa and such. Could have blown up the spot a little bit at 105, 108 pounds. But wasn't meant to be for him. So maybe, possibly, a Butler versus Tanaka fight would be pretty good. Be good to see Tanaka fight a slickster, which is what Butler is. Very slick, spoiler type fighter. Tries to to make you miss, make you pay. Tries to really take a lot of the air out of the fight. Very defensive first fighter. I think that'd be a very interesting fight to see Tanaka fight against. See how how he can deal with somebody that he has to cut off the ring against a little bit. Somebody that he has to chase down a little bit. Another good fight I think that might be out there for Tanaka. Another guy that might be able to physically match him in certain ways would be Roman Gonzalez's cousin, actually. Chocolatito Gonzalez's cousin, Christopher Rosales, who is, I think he's still at 108 pounds. He's a guy that's been a bit of a floater. He'll fight at 108, he'll fight at 112, he'll fight at 115, whatever his opponent is willing to come in at or what have you. He's a pretty tall guy, about 5'6" and change. He's got fairly quick hands, though, a little bit quicker than Fuentes is. He's one of the main sparring partners for Gonzalez oftentimes in the past, especially when Gonzalez is fighting a taller opponent. So I think he could potentially give Tanaka some issues. Who knows? Maybe even a comebacking Falan Sakridin Jr. Might be a pretty interesting fight for Tanaka. Sakridin is particularly well known for that brutal, what was it? I think a first round knockout of Ryo Miyazaki, or second round knockout, I think. where he just caught him. All right, you know what? Actually, this is the third round knockout, if I remember correctly. Just caught him cold and finished him. You know, he had actually had a good fight with Milan Melindo recently, the aforementioned Milan Melindo, where I thought Sakuradin could have very well won the decision, but Melindo wound up getting it. But I think that'd be a nice test for Tanaka as well. Should he not be able to get any kind of unification going, considering the fact that the WBC Ganagan Lopez is likely to be rematching Pedro Guevara for that belt. And Taguchi, of course, is going to be fighting Carlos Canizales in a few hours to defend his WBA title. So we'll see how Taguchi versus Canizales goes. If Canizales is able to pull off a big upset, that'll be pretty interesting. You know, he's a big knockout puncher, so I wouldn't necessarily put it completely out of the distance of reality. But you know, Taguchi to me is still like pretty much one of the top 2-3 fighters in the weight class, and I think I have to put Tanaka there now too. I think I have to put Tanaka as one of the top 3 fighters in the weight class, man. I mean, just rankings wise, I'd probably have to go something like Taguchi, Lopez, and Tanaka for my top 3, just because of the fact that, you know, even though Lopez lost to Guevara, Lopez did manage to conclusively defeat Yuki Mura, who was the guy that got a little bit of a slight gift decision maybe in what was a fairly close fight versus Guevara, but Lopez pretty conclusively dominated Kimura. Then you got Taguchi, who has probably held the title a little bit longer than the other fighters, and he's managed to rack up a couple of nice wins. Of course, you know, was also the first man to survive the distance with Inoue. Had a great win over Landaeta recently, but also, you know, he had a couple of fights where he looked a little bit looked a little bit more mortal. In particular, the decision versus Luis De La Rosa. I mean, excuse me, the TKO versus Luis De La Rosa. De La Rosa gave him some trouble, and Taguchi had to dig in a little bit in order to TKO him. But yeah, I mean, I think Tanaka's live against just about anybody. I'd favor him over Yagashi. Lopez, Guevara, and Taguchi, I think, are pretty much 50-50. And I wouldn't necessarily blame anybody for putting Tanaka at the very top of the list right now, just based off of that single performance right then and there. On top of what he had accomplished at 105 pounds, which was pretty damn impressive. I mean, won a world title very, very quick into his career. Was that his 5th fight? And now in 8 fights, he's a 2-weight world champion. He's looking to have a burgeoning, fantastic career, man. He's looking like he might be a future ratings rival for the likes of Kazuto Yoka, for the likes of Naoya Inoue. Who knows? Maybe even if he continues to hone his craft, perfect his skills, and up his overall notoriety, he might be able to get a fight with Naoya Inoue. I saw somebody on Twitter hinting at, you know, the possibility of Kosei Tanaka moving up to 112 pounds to flyweight in order to fight Zhou Shiming, which, hey, I'm down with it. I'm definitely down with it. I mean, Zhou Shiming might be fighting Donny Nietes next, and considering Tanaka just outdid Nietes, basically one of Nietes' best wins, if not his best win, I wouldn't mind seeing it. You know, Tanaka at 108 or 112 pounds, I think, is very live against most of the fighters there, especially considering 112 is a little bit of an open division now that Roman Gonzalez and Juan Francisco Estrada have left. So we got Tanaka there, and I wouldn't be surprised maybe in a couple of years Tanaka maybe starting to nip at the heels of Naoya Inoue. You know, especially if Tanaka was to just hypothetically speaking, if he was to move up to 112, take out Zhou Shiming, big money fight, Japan versus China, then fight all unification, all Japan unification with Kazuto Yoka, the biggest ratings draw in Japan currently. He beats Yoka, then he moves up to 115 pounds, fights Naoya Inoue. That's big money. That's pound for pound level significance. That's that's like all time great level stuff for the lowest weight classes. That'd be, you know, 4 weight classes. Just really impressive stuff from Kosei Tanaka. So I'm really looking forward to see what his career portends. And you know, he's an ambitious and really good young fighter. You know, still really learning his craft. You know, just at 21, and he's doing it big and going for the gusto. And I love to see that. I love to see that from any fighter of every age. You know, go after it and try and get yours the best and the quickest way that you can, and do it in the biggest way possible. So with that said, I'll catch you guys in the next ones. You know, of course, I'm going to be reviewing the fights later. So until then, peace.